Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Friday Friends. For those of you who have not seen the show before, I am Deb Burton, the host of Friday Friends, and I am the founder and creator of RI Elder Info and rielderinfo.com. That's the most comprehensive resource for seniors, caregivers, and professionals here in Rhode Island. We are a 501c3 nonprofit, and our mission is to get you the information that you need to age independently, to be the most effective caregiver that you can, and to really assist professionals who work with the older population have the most up-to-date information and resources that are available out there. Welcome, everybody. And I know that one of the things that's really important to all of us is really seeing and experiencing positive aging. So I want you to hit the like button and hit the share button, because there's going to be some fun stuff that we're talking about today that I know that you know people who really want to hear what's happening. So what we do as a nonprofit would not be possible without the support of our sponsors. So I have to give a big shout out to Oak Street Health. Thank you very much. They are a full comprehensive medical practice, locations in Warwick, Woonsocket, Providence. They speak multiple languages. They provide transportation. Pretty cool place. I encourage you to check it out. Also, Tamarisk Assisted Living Facility, great little assisted living facility in Warwick, right over by the mall. So super convenient on off the highway for visiting, that kind of thing. And they're just genuinely sweet people over there. Also, big shout out to England Studio, who are the designers of the actual website, because I'm not a website person, not the back end techie kind of stuff. That's England Studios. And then a big shout out also to DMB Media, who actually run the back end of all of our live streaming every week, because again, refer back, I'm not a techie person. So this week, I am super excited to bring on my next guest. She has been an example of and promoter of positive aging. And the thing, she was talking about this long before it was like a buzzword. And she's just this awesome individual. She's been on, let's see, she's had her own radio show. She does podcasts. She's done television. She's written books. Just an amazing individual who just embodies positive aging. And you guys who watch me regularly, you know I hate that, oh, someone's older, and all this whining, vulnerability, weak stuff nonsense. We're real people. So we like to talk about what it means to age positively. So I'd like to welcome my next guest for this week, Patricia Raskin.
Hi, Deb. Thanks so much.
Hi, Patricia. How are you?
Great to be on.
Good to see you.
Thank you. You too.
So you've been promoting positive living your whole life through media, radio, TV, internet, books. You were so far ahead of your time.
Yeah.
Why? Why is positive living and positive aging important?
You hear that? Because when you're a pioneer and you're a leader and you're way ahead, you don't have a lot of people in front of you. So you're a trailblazer. So you're always finding the brush fires and putting them out. And I don't know if I have the real answer, but I will tell you this. I started out as a teacher and a guidance counselor with a master's in counseling very early on, very right out of school. And during that time, as when I was a guidance counselor, during those years, I was noticing I was putting Band-Aids on kids, and I just felt like it wasn't helping. So I really felt that prevention was the way to go, that we really should look at a more wellness, holistic lifestyle. So I was in my late 20s, early 30s. And I said to myself, you know what? I want to live to be at least 100. Now, this is going back a ways. I want to live and I'm going to study those people who've lived the longest and the healthiest, and I'm going to start living holistically. This was way before, when people were, looking at this stuff as you were weird. You were like an amount, drinking water and eating honey instead of sugar and fasting and doing all of that was like, what are you, nuts? And macrobiotics and I was doing that years ago, and now I'm more back to the middle. But so the point of the story is that, so in those days, I started really looking at this, And I was just started living a healthy lifestyle, looking at food and exercise because I was just determined. And I read about the healthiest people on the planet in those days, and they were called the Hunzas. And not
Hunzas.
so much these days. There's a controversy about them, but they walked all the time. They were eating off the land. They ate fresh and healthy food. They had community, and so that's what I've been doing. And then that brought me to the media because I had an opportunity in the earliest days of cable. I was one of the first people in Massachusetts in those days to have a cable TV show. And I called the station and I said, I hear you're putting cable in. I'd love to do a show. And they said, hey, come on down. And I said, what? So that was the beginning of my show. And the first show that I ever did was called Positive People. And from there, I've done Positive People, Positive Aging, Positive Business, Positive Living, all of that. And I've stayed with that theme for 4 decades. I've interviewed about 5,000 people and all experts in this field. So it's been amazing. One of them was Dan Buettner, who wrote the book Blue Zones and found the healthiest people on the planet all around the world. So I've been very fortunate to find those role models. I interviewed Dr. Oz, Andrew Weil, some of the really great people in the field, and I've adopted the lifestyle, and it's
That
been helpful.
that's absolutely amazing. So you were saying, I've heard of the blue zones, and that's where people are pretty regularly living beyond 100.
Right.
What is it that they're doing? What is it that's making them successful to live beyond 100? Because I too would love to live to be 100 in health.
Yeah.
And so what's the trick of that?
Well, let's talk about Dan. So Dan Buettner is the author of Blue Zones, which is a best-selling book. He's a National Geographic explorer, and he went all over the world to find the 5 healthiest places on the planet where people live the longest and were happiest. And he found, number 1, they ate a plant-based diet. Number 2, they were not sedentary. They didn't exercise the way we do with machines because we're more sedentary. Mm-hmm. They were constantly moving, and they were in high altitudes, fresh air, a lot of community, a lot of support building. And, there are other things as well. But I think the main thing that I think that we need more of, and particularly during this pandemic, is we need those things. We need to eat more off the land. We need to eat more natural food, more plant-based diet, more fresh. We need to exercise more, meditate, visualize, get support from friends. I mean, I'm doing webinars every day for corporations, and these are all remote, all over the country. And what am I teaching? How do you deal with COVID? How can you change your attitude? How can you be more resilient? How can you work during these times? And it's all about communication, having routines and schedules and boundaries, because, we have the reptilian brain. We are wired to be planners. So having the routines and schedules, self-care, limiting the news, and knowing we're in a new normal. We have lost something, and we are going through grief and loss. Our holiday in 2020 wasn't the same as it was in 2019. It was very different, right? So think about that. And when you grieve, when you lose, and think about the things that people lose, relationships, health, finances, put COVID on top of that. And not just COVID, we have now political issues. We have the economy that's uncertain, climate change, and racial tension, all uncertain. And whenever we're uncertain, we have anxiety. So for all ages, this is important, but particularly for our seniors. And I want to say something here for seniors. We are very fortunate, Deb, that we have technology today. In 1918, they had nothing, right? So think about it. In 1918, they either had the person next to them in the sick bed, or they walked out in the street with a mask on, or they talked to the doctor if they had one. So think of today, I can still communicate with you, and I can get your feeling and your emotion because I can see your body language. Message to our seniors: share your stories. I was very fortunate. When my father was alive, he died at 95. I wrote my second book called Pathfinding: 7 Principles for Positive Living. I put all my father's stories in that book. So now my family can go through that book and look at the shaded blocks. I could hold it up and show you the shaded blocks, and there were his stories. That's our family legacy. You don't have to write a book, but you know what? Do a Zoom call with your grandkids, right? And hold up the phone and talk, and you're automatically recording.
Yeah.
Don't let those memories pass with you.
Yeah.
And I
agree.
I can't really emphasize that enough. We need more communication more than ever, and we need to listen more. And positive aging is positive living. It's a sink
Yep.
with shoulder. All right, so what does that mean? All right, so maybe we don't walk as fast. Maybe we don't hear quite as well. Maybe we don't see. So what? So we do it a little differently, but we still do it. We can still do everything. And this whole blank blank BS about, well, you're over 65 or 70, forget it. And you know
You're
what?
right.
You know what I read? That I read this somewhere recently, that the younger generation, the millennials, they're going to all live, many of them will live to be over 100. Oh, thank you, Sheila. Thank you. Sheila Glazow is a fabulous expert. She talks about colors and how colors can help you. She just wrote in the chat room, and she's from Chicago. But what I want to say,
Chicago, yay! I was
yeah,
born there.
yeah. But this whole business, people are starting businesses in their 60s and 70s. People have new relationships, and this whole thing about, oh, you're too old. People are getting divorced after 30 years of marriage. You never saw that before. People are starting new lives. So, yes, it's a little more challenging. I may not be able to run as fast, but I get it done. So I'm a little slower. And I'm just, and I'm fortunate because I look and I act much younger. Part of that is probably what I did as a young person. But you know what? Even if we don't have the best genes, it's not all about genes. It's also about our exercise, it's our nutrition, it's the environment. I mean, I interviewed Dr. Daniel Amen, who's unbelievable. He wrote the book Memory Rescue. He's a psychiatrist. He talks about brain health and that your brain is always changing with neuroplasticity. There are other cultures that don't get dementia the way that we have it. We don't have to have half of our population over 85 getting dementia. Look at some other cultures around the world that have 10% dementia.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Get Daniel Amen's book. It's fantastic. It's called Memory Rescue.
Awesome.
So
I just love speaking with you because you just exude energy and excitement. And I think, you're right. It is diet, it is lifestyle, it is exercise, but it's also what are we focusing our attention on? And you made a great point about the media and, turn off the box for a while because there's just not a whole lot of positivity that comes out of that.
Yeah. And let me say something about that, Deb. You're right. But there's even more than that. It's your attitude and it's how you think. Now, I'm sitting here. Yeah, I'm positive. I got great energy. But I've been through some very tough things in my life. Mm-hmm. Very hard. And, most people would just, well, what are we going to do? And you know what? A lot of us go through hard things. So you've got a choice. You've got a choice. I'm either going to curl up and I'm just going to check out, or I'm going to feel it, go through the grief and the sadness and the pain and go through it. We don't have to have the suffering. We go through it and then we problem solve and move on. So what I've been able to do through these hard times that I've been through is that I've been able to see the light. I've been able to go, okay, this is really tough and I'm really sad and there's a loss here. All right. Yes. And I'm going to feel the pain, which isn't fun. And now I'm going to say, where can I move to? How can I go forward? How can I problem solve? Who can support me? And that's something that I've been able to do. And that's what's helped me with my life.
Yeah, and it is amazing. And do you find, I know that you had said that you're still working. Do you find that ageism is a factor in the working world? And do you think that it has increased, decreased, stayed the same throughout the COVID pandemic?
Good question. Well, I think it's certainly there. We try to hide it, just like we try to hide racism. It's still there. However, things are so much more open now. There's a book by Chip Conley called A Working Wisdom, and he talks about the older adult and what we can do for the workplace. Because the older adult many times is more responsible. They have the knowledge base. They may not have the tech, but they can work with the millennial. I mean, I have students from University of Rhode Island, and they are millennials, and it's fantastic. because I give them my wisdom and knowledge. They give me all their wisdom and knowledge. So when you combine the generations, you have a tremendous amount of wisdom. So the answer to your question is yes and no. Yes, but now that we can work remotely, it really doesn't matter what your age is. Think about it. I am doing all of my work remote now. I do these corporate webinars, and I also help people create their own shows because I've interviewed so many people. And so I do it all virtually. I help them with content and what is their subject matter and how do we craft it, almost like writing a book. So I guess what I'm saying is that it doesn't have to stop you. People create new businesses when they're older, because if you have the disposable income or you're retired and you've always wanted to do that business, you can do it. Maybe get your children or your relatives or your friends to be involved. So I think there's a lot of possibility. Particularly if you have more of the means. And even if you don't, if you've got the wisdom and the knowledge from all those decades of work, it can be helpful. So I think it's changing. And I think it will change, particularly because, we're the fastest growing population in the country, particularly Rhode Islanders. Right? Isn't that true, Deb? Aren't we the fastest growing? So
I don't know if we're the fastest growing, but we do have the largest percentage of population over the age of 85.
Right.
And we also, I don't think folks realize that we have roughly 30,000 people over the age of 65 who still go to work. Now, I don't have the data as to whether or not that's full-time or part-time, but, so often the narrative is age 65, you retire, you play some golf, you drop dead of a heart attack. And the reality is that's not what happens.
Right. And you know why you just said that? You dropped dead of a heart attack? Because what happened to the brain?
Yeah.
What happened to the brain? The secret to longevity, aside moving, is keeping that brain active, and not just keeping it active, but learning something new. That's where the new neural pathways are created. So it's not just, I'm going to play golf every day. Although golf is good because you're learning new moves all the time. You got to think, but it's a new language, learning a new skill on the computer, which I have to do all the time and makes me crazy, but it makes me think. Yeah. It's like, how am I going to figure this out? I don't want to. Can a techie person come over? But I have to.
I know that feeling.
Right. I have to. And I do. I panic because, what did I have in school growing up? I had paper and pencil and penmanship.
And typewriters.
Exactly. So I've learned it because I had to. I couldn't do my work if I didn't learn it. But I get more anxious than someone who knows this stuff or a millennial. They just go, it's not working. Okay, and I'm going, it's not working because, I didn't grow up with this, so it's not that comfortable. But you know what? We need to be out of our comfort zone. That's what helps us age gracefully. So again, learn new things, making sure you're always exercising the brain, exercise physically, be around positive people, and when that brain starts going with the worrying, right? Talk to it. Talk to yourself. And when you're communicating, Deb, try to see it from the other person's point of view. Because here's what happens. You and I are having a conversation. I'm using you as an example. Yep. And you have an opposite point of view from me. Okay. So I'm listening to you. And in my brain, what's going in the self-talk is, Deb is ridiculous. I can't believe she believes that. I'm going to sit here and smile at her and listen, but she's absolutely wrong. Okay. So what happened is, I smiled at you. And then I said, Deb, I get it. Okay, I got to go now.
You are 100% on the money. Yeah.
So let's rewind that. So now, Deb, I'm listening to you and the same thing's going through my mind. And I'm saying to myself, Patricia, stop. Take the biases and the filters away. And I want you to hear Deb from exactly as though you went whoop right into her, as though you were her. Now I'm listening to it the way I would if I were you. And now all of a sudden, my mind is open. It doesn't mean I agree with you. Doesn't mean I particularly like it, but I'm getting it. So what does that do? It allows me to connect with you. And now you're going to talk to me more. Now we're going to have a better relationship. And we all do this because we all have biases. Yep. So I'm saying, and this is something we can do at any age. What I'm talking about right now is ageless.
Yes. You could be the high school kid and need this. Yes.
Sometimes as people say, well, you're older, you're set in your ways. Well, yeah. We've been doing things longer. But that doesn't mean we can't change.
Amen. Amen. That is so true. And one of the things that you mentioned is the opportunity to learn. So, for my viewers out there, if you're looking for different classes that are available for older adults, it is on the All Right Elder Info Activities for Older Adults page. There's a lot of opportunities out there. Like Patricia said, you can go online. 75% of individuals over 65 are online. So that's 3/4 of the population. That's awesome. That means you
Right.
can share this
That's right.
video with 3/4 of the population.
And it's not that hard to do. I mean, we've
Yeah.
got FaceTime. FaceTime is easy. I mean, you and I have to do more complex things because I have to get onto lots of platforms like Zoom and WebEx and team meetings, and I got to be able to do screens. It's a little different because that's my work.
Right.
But in terms of just conversing, get on a Zoom call. And you know what? If you say to me, well, my relative can't use Zoom, and okay, get them on FaceTime. Everybody has a phone. FaceTime is very easy to use. And if you say, and you give me more excuses, then I'll say to you, get somebody to come over and help you. Then you'll say to me, oh, but it's COVID. I can't get it. The excuses just go on and on and on. You know what? Find a way, find a workaround.
I think, when you're talking about getting on Zoom and the challenge of technology, I had the pleasure to be in the company of a lovely lady who's 98. And she was on a Zoom call and was walking her baby sister, who is 96, on how to get onto Zoom so that they could see each other. And I think one of the things that, the pandemic has really facilitated in a positive way is this ability to connect. Because now, maybe your siblings were out of state, you couldn't drive there, so you can only talk on the phone. So you didn't really get to see your nieces and nephews grow up. And now, boom, we've got video. We can FaceTime. We can message through Facebook.
We didn't have it 25 years ago. 25 years ago, it's like a dream. I remember going to Disney World and Back to the Future 25 years ago going, oh, look at them talking. This is a dream.
Yes.
But I want to comment on something you've said because it brings me to a fabulous story that I really want to share. All right. So going back to being ahead of my time, in 1995, that's 25 years ago, I produced 3 documentaries for the North Carolina Division of Aging, and they aired on PBS in North Carolina. Positive Aging in North Carolina, The Older Worker in North Carolina, and I actually went to the White House Conference on Aging in Washington, and I interviewed people. So this was back, and now I'm hopefully working with Rhode Island Public Television on a series called Positive Aging. It got stopped with COVID, so we're kind of in that waiting for funding staging. But we did the pilot, and we're very excited about it. But let me go back to my story. This is fantastic. So I do this documentary for North Carolina, and it's called Positive Aging, and this is a true story. And I'm at the end of the documentary, and I want to close it out. And I have this gentleman in my studio, and I was working at a Fox affiliate then, totally different. Fox was very different then than it is now. And this was in North Carolina, in Winston-Salem. So I'm in the studio, and I'm interviewing this guy, and he's showing off his artwork. And all of a sudden, he gets really angry. And he says, I don't like this. I'm not doing this, and leaves the studio and takes all the artwork with him. This is a true story. Unbelievable. It's in my book. And I'm going, oh, great. I don't have an ending for my documentary. So I walk out into the reception area, and the receptionist says to me, here, Patricia, here's a package that just came for you. Now, I'm only in that studio once a month. I said, okay. I go into the room to calm myself down into the little conference room, and I look at it, and I open it up, and it says, Senior Games, National Senior Games, winner of the golfing, whatever it is, Senior Games, Harley Potter, 102 years old, Winston-Salem, North Carolina, which is where I was. I went, what? And how does this happen? She hands me a sheet just as this is happening with this whole press release about this national golfer, 102 years old, who lives in Winston-Salem. I went, so I run out and I run around, and I don't know how I did it, but I found the daughter of Harley, who was 75. The next day, we're on the golf course in Winston-Salem with his daughter, who is 75. He's 102. I'm standing there with the microphone. He's got 25% hearing in one ear. And I'm talking to the one ear. And he says, I learned how to play golf when I was 100. Let me see, when I was 92. He says, you can learn at any age. I hit the ball and I hit it again. And my last score was 100. He died at 106. I talked to his daughter, and the granddaughter put a Purple Heart in his casket. She said he always lived in the now. He always believed in people. He lived in moderation, and he was always happy. And that's one of those peak moments in my career was doing that. I have the video from 19. It's one of those big old boxes, remember, from the high 8 days. But yeah, it's and here I am 25 years later doing something with RIPBS. And it was 1995, Positive Aging in North Carolina.
Wow.
And
Wow,
we were
that's
role
amazing.
models then.
So, what are your final thoughts? What message would you like to give to our viewers?
It's never too late. Period. Period. It's never too late. If you've got your health, you've got everything. Because if you don't have your health, then it's hard to do your work. Focus on self-care, self-care, self-care. 5 things: self-care, exercise, nutrition, sleep, meditation, breathing. 2, schedules and routines. Remember, we have that brain that is wired to be planners. You will reduce your anxiety level by a lot. Okay. Number 3, make sure that, again, you want to look at, I said the self-care, and I talked about routines and boundaries. And also you want to make sure that you limit the news, which is very important. And the last one is really understanding that we are in a new normal, right? We're in a new normal. So I think that's going to be a big difference.
This has been absolutely great, Patricia. I am so glad to have you on. You're just so exuberant, so bubbly, and a role model for all of us of all ages.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for taking the time to come on today. This is truly wonderful.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you. And do you want you have my website so people can.
Yeah, it's been shown, patriciaraskin.com.
Right, and I have a radio show that's on every week on voiceamerica.com. That's all on my website.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
excellent.
In the 19th year. I was on Crow for about 10 years doing a show, and now I keep my show on Voice America. So
awesome. Wonderful. And how do you get to Voice America?
VoiceAmerica.com, plug in Patricia Raskin.
Okay. Simple enough. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Deb.
Well, everybody, you just saw how bubbly and lively Patricia Raskin is. She gave us some great information about how to age positively, the actual steps that we can take right now, today. Turn off the news. That was a big one. One of the things that she mentioned, too, was about sharing our stories. And, that's part of what we're doing here on Friday Friends. But it's also really important that you share your stories with your family members. Explain why that particular maybe mug makes a difference to you. Why do you always use that one and not one of the other 7 in the cabinet? Or, what's the story behind that Afghan that's on the back of the couch? And so it's really important that you get those words out to your family members. So, one day it'll be those things that they remember about their family history. So thank you, everybody. I look forward to seeing you all next week. And don't forget, share and like. Make sure you follow us every week on Fridays at 9 a.m. We're here doing Friday Friends. Next week is Operation Stand Down. We're going to be talking about 2 words that should never, ever, ever go together. And that's veteran homelessness. So again, everybody, thank you for joining me. And please share your stories. Have a great day. See you next week.
There are so many stories we've never told, questions we never thought to ask. Preserve your family memories for generations to come.
If you liked this video, Please follow us on social media and subscribe on YouTube. For more information, visit rielderinfo.com or call 401-585-0509. If you have any questions, email deb@rielderinfo.com.